My apologies, we'll bring you more on that reporting later on. I want to take you to news on the go unfolding in the High Court in Pretoria. That application for an interdict by Zambia's Attorney General against the Lungu family has now started. Let's listen in.
Today, the family for the family of the deceased, for the late president, doesn't want a piecemeal funeral situation. It's not really what he deserves. But saying that, we will give certain undertakings to the applicant that will take care of this application, and then we just need to talk and hash out time frames maybe for the main application that they will then have to serve. In that situation, we stand down and I speak to my little senior friend for a few minutes.
Stand down.
As a court previous Monday. As a court previous, thank you.
You may patient.
All right, so it seems there's been just a short adjournment for lawyers of both sides to consult about, I suppose, the application and what's likely to happen next. But we'll keep a very close eye on the situation unfolding in the High Court in Pretoria. That's where the Zambian government, through the Attorney General, is taking Edgar Lungu's family to court over the burial of the former president, which is going to get underway at 11 o'clock in Johannesburg. Speaking of the city, let's get you to the on one of our big stories this Wednesday morning. We're just hours away from the expected burial of former Zambian President Edgar Lungu, and the country's Attorney General is heading to the High Court in Pretoria seeking an order to halt that burial of the former president. Mulido Kashiba contends that no burial can take place until all disputes regarding Lungu's final resting place are resolved, specifically whether he should be interred in Zambia with full military honors, customs and traditions as mandated by Zambia's law, and in keeping with public interest. Lungu died in Johannesburg earlier this month. Let's get you a sense of what we know so far, bringing our senior reporter, Kenny Mapanga, live to us now from the High Court in Pretoria. And Kenny, we were anticipating that proceedings would have gotten underway by now, but there was an adjournment to allow the legal counsels in this case to consult. What do we know about that?
Indeed. Good morning to you, Yanda, and to the viewers at home. We expected that the application for the interim interdict by the Zambian government would be well underway in the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, but it does seem that both parties have now had to step away to chambers to discuss some form of a settlement agreement or undertakings that both parties intend to make to one another, pending the main adjudication of the matter, which is the dispute as to whether the former president should be repatriated to Zambia or whether his family can bury him here in Johannesburg. Now, logically, Ayanda, where we stand right now, we are going to stick around waiting for an order, but there is no order from the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria as we speak right now. This means that the undertaker cannot proceed until this court has made a determination on this urgent application. Now, because the parties are still in negotiations, we don't know what the terms are going to be that they're going going to agree to, or what undertakings each party will agree to, whether it is the Zambian government or the respondents. But as we speak right now, that undertaker cannot proceed with the burial of the former president until the High Court has given its directives, which will also be accompanied by some form of an order that will direct both parties regarding this issue. The family is still in court right now. The respondents' counsel as well as the applicants' counsel are on the 7th floor with the Deputy Judge President discussing this agreement right now as we speak. And of course, when we have a way forward, we'll then begin to update you as to whether this burial could proceed or not. But as we speak right now, Ayanda, that undertaker cannot go ahead with its duties. We have to wait for the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria to give out its directives or its order on this urgent interim application pending the final determination of this issue of whether the former president will be repatriated to Zambia, or if the family's wishes will be granted to bury him here in Johannesburg, South Africa.
It's quite the moment. I'm even struggling to find the words for it. The altar has literally been set at the Christ the King Cathedral as we wait for this outcome. And in fact, Kenny, we saw some of the people who are in the gallery today clearly dressed up for a funeral. Who are you able to spot there?
Yes. Well, it seems that the family is not willing to speak to the media at this stage. That also gives us an indication as to where they are right now emotionally and the prospects of this burial actually happening or not today. We see that majority of the family members, that is key family members, such as the widow of the former president, some of his children, are present in the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria as we speak right now. They are waiting their counter to give them that final determination. However, the chances are looking a bit slim. Ayanda, it's not confirmed yet, but it's looking a bit slim as to whether this funeral can proceed or not. As I've stated earlier, the undertaker cannot proceed without the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria giving some form of a directive or an order to that effect. In the absence of that order or directive, which is where we stand right now, Ayanda, that funeral cannot proceed as we speak. We have to wait for the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria to meet with these parties. That is happening right now. The undertakings have to be made, and in that draft order, we made an order of the court. So we await those details as we speak right now, and it could take us the whole day, could take a few hours. We'll wait and see how the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, that is the Deputy Judge President, deals with this dispute over the former president's burial.
An extraordinary moment. Kenny Mapanga left us there from the High Court in Pretoria. Thanks very much indeed. This latest flashpoint in this decades-long conflict between Edgar Lungu and the government of the day in Zambia. What's likely to happen next? But the story now is that the Director General. My apologies, we'll bring you more on that reporting later on. I want to take you to news on the go unfolding in the High Court in Pretoria. That application for an interdict by Zambia's Attorney General against the Lungu family has now started. Let's listen.
Today, the family for the family of the deceased, for the late president, doesn't want a piecemeal funeral situation. It's not really what he deserves. But saying that, we will give certain undertakings to the applicant that will take care of this application, and then we just need to talk and hash out time frames maybe for the main application that they will then have to serve. In that situation, we stand down and I speak to my learned senior friend for a few minutes.
Stand up.
As a court previous Monday. As a court previous, thank you.
Remain patient. and African. The people in Zambia, the narrative is, truth be told, this state council here, is that next elections we must vote this government out so that we can bury a former president in Zambia. Nobody wants a president being buried away from his country. In Zambia, we hosted graves for our colleagues in South Africa during the liberation struggle. When you go to independence, they were exhumed. Yes, and we kept them because the region was, under apartheid. Yes. But nobody loved the situation that our brothers and sisters are buried there who are fighting for this country, for the liberation of this country. Similarly, the people in Zambia are not amused to bury their former head of state in a country that liberated the whole region, a country that is respected because of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda's stance on the liberalization of the whole country. Yes, we may have political liberation, we may not have economic liberation, but we have something to start from. So to have former head of state in a country that is respected like Zambia, be buried away from Zambia, is a funeral that may not see closure until the remains of our late president are brought back to Zambia and buried in Zambia.
The thing is, this is so bizarre because
absolutely,
you have a former head of state who is not even in exile, being buried on foreign land. What does that say about Zambia and its politics?
It's unfortunate. It's a major dent in the politics of our country. We couldn't believe it could escalate to such low levels of governance. Low levels of governance. When people are saying to levels of presidency, you must be the bigger person. You must, leave some petty issues. There's a lot of work in the presidency. You are looking after the whole country. You are looking after the whole people. You are looking after the region.
Mambo kusema familia. Mambo kusema familia.
Ekwama VIP binende sta ashaba so mumbe nani kan please parking ni then na kumbi kujeni.
Pa entrance. At pa entrance. Man. It's okay. I'm wondering.
Court is today hearing a public interest lawsuit opposing the burial of former President Edgar Lungu in that country. Yesterday, Attorney General Mulilo Kabesha filed the suit in the Gauteng Division of the High Court of South Africa in Pretoria. The suit is directed against members of the late president's family and two other individuals seeking an interim court order to prevent the burial of the former president. Mr. Kabesha has requested that no burial takes place until all disputes regarding Dr. Lungu's final resting place are resolved, specifically whether he should be interred in Zambia with full military honors, customs and traditions as mandated by Zambian laws and in keeping with public interest. Now joining me in the studio is on this special program is Attorney General Mulilo Kabesha, State Counsel. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sinyangwe. I appreciate that you invited me to come to this program. Okay, and just let the nation know what is going on.
Okay. Now, Mr. Attorney General, what has prompted your decision to file a challenge over the repatriation of the former president's remains?
Well, the Attorney General, by law, by the Constitution, is the custodian of public interest. So in this matter, I think the executive, they have tried to negotiate with the Lungu family that the body be repatriated to Zambia and be buried here. They have been having talks, and we saw at one time there was almost an agreement, but at the last stage there was some assorting that the family of the Lungu family decided that the burial should take place in South Africa. And there are mixed positions. Some members of the public think that is not okay, that's not ideal, culturally and morally, for the Zambian president, former president, to be buried outside the country. For the government also, it has obligations to bury the former president in this country by law. And so after negotiations failed, it was also my decision as my office mandates to try and approach the courts to help us to come up to terms. Now, the application I've made in the court, in the High Court in Pretoria, it has two limbs. The first one, because the burial should have been today, President Lungu was to be buried in South Africa today at 10 hours. And so yesterday I filed an application. We call it an ex parte application for a stay, to suspend, not to stop, to suspend the burial of President Lungu today until there will be a second phase. The second phase is for me to apply to court that the remains of our President Lungu be repatriated to Zambia. And so the first stage of staying, suspending the application, was held today at 8 hours. And so the court has allowed that we don't bury today. Okay. The court at least has allowed that we don't bury today because we made what we call prima facie case, that yes, there is need for the parties to continue discussing and for the parties to reflect whether this is the best arrangement we want. And so the court has allowed that we wait until I make the application to court, and I've been asked to file on or before 3rd July for the repatriation of the remains of former President Lungu to come to Zambia. And the other party, the Lungu family, will be filing their response to what I will be asking by 4th July. And after we have done that, the court can hear us for that application on 18th July. And, but that gives us time to continue negotiations, to continue talking to each other. The parties who have been discussing, maybe they will change the negotiators, and maybe the Lungu family also will change the negotiators, so that we bring the body, or we bring the remains of the former president to Zambia. That is our hope. That speaking for myself as Attorney General, there is no need for us to wait until those dates which have been given. It's not a win-win situation. It's give and take. The government feels that President Lungu deserves to be buried in the country where he was president for 7 years. Morally, culturally, and spiritually, he must be buried in this country. To bury him in, whether you want to exhume him later, it's not fair, because he's not a refugee. He went because he had an illness, and we need to honor him by bringing the body. So that is what prompted me to bring an action in the South African court, so that the court can help us.
Now, can you clarify the legal basis on which the state is seeking to compel the family to bring back the body? Is there a specific statute or constitutional provision that is being invoked?
It's not to compel. That's why we went to court, and that's why we have been negotiating. The government has the law. Yes, there is the former President's Benefits Act, which is Chapter 15 of the laws of Zambia, which gives what a former president is entitled to. And in the schedule of that act, funeral expenses are supposed to be funded by the government. That is the law. That's the law we are relying upon.
Now, why is this matter of such national importance, that it requires legal intervention from the state?
Yeah, of course. For me, my observation is that I think politics have come in. I think it shouldn't have been. President Lungu didn't belong just to political groups. When he became president, he became a national asset. And whether people didn't vote for him, those who didn't vote for him, he was still their president. And so that's why I thought having the intervention of the court to guide us would be a better arrangement. And I think so far what has happened, I think lawyers are getting to know that the best is what we are asking the parties to do.
It's quite interesting. Does this legal challenge then set a precedent, for how Zambia handles the burial of former heads of state?
The precedent is there. It's not that this case, for the Zambian side, South Africa maybe is different. For the Zambian side, the precedent is already there. What I need to explain also is that the law in Zambia is that it's either by an act of parliament, a piece of legislation, or by precedent of the court. When a court makes a decision, that becomes a precedent, and we have to follow what the court has guided in that precedent, or what the court has ordered. Now we have a precedent in this country, the Kaweche case, when former President Kaunda died. If Zambians have good memory, those who were paying attention to the burial of President Kaunda, they will remember that there was a case in court by Kaweche Kaunda, the son, that they wanted him to be buried at the house where the mother to Kaweche, or Betty was buried. The matter went to court, and the High Court there ruled that a former president is not a private arrangement. It's not a private property. It's a national property, and it must be, his burial should be handled by the state. The moment there is a national mourning declared, then the law kicks in. The presidential burial takes place, and the government, the military honors, and all the protocols involved, they kick in. There's a law already. That case it's a law.
Mm-hmm. Now, critics may argue, and this is an argument that is going out, that the family has a right to mourn and bury their loved one as they see fit. How does the government balance state interest with the family's right to privacy and cultural considerations?
Yeah, I think the government in those negotiations, by where the government, there was the Secretary to the Cabinet and former Vice President Kavindele, they tried to balance up, and the government was saying, let's continue discussing. It's trying to balance that the family, yes, they have an interest, but the law set in that case, which I've cited, says the family or private interests cannot override public interest. Mm-hmm. And in that case, the judge emphasized that once a national mourning has been declared, and because of the death of the former president, it's the public interest that takes the position. It's the public interest that overrides the private interest. That's the law. Mm-hmm. And that's what we are riding on.
Okay. Now, looking at this suit that you've brought in, I mean, this is law for Zambia, but then this is in South Africa now. Do we have any cases within Africa or within Southern Africa that you are using as, where we're getting lessons from, or that you can use as examples, to help with this case?
Well, I don't know any other case but I know for sure that many African heads of state, former presidents, some of them who were even who were refugees somewhere or who had sought asylum. Mm-hmm. But when they died, their remains were taken to their countries of origin. And even here in town, even if we want to be normal Zambians, there are those who die in town, but we repatriate them to their village. Mm-hmm. If they are working, the employers will ask where the family wants that person to be buried. Yes, they do that, but not when you become president. Maybe this will help us also. For those politicians who want to be presidents, when you become a president, you stop being a private person. Don't even talk about, I have a right to privacy. You are an asset for the nation. Where you go, the state should know where you are going, because they are protecting. When you have been president, when you have been attorney general, there are things I know which you don't know, Sinyangwe. And those things belong to the state. That information belongs to the state. I cannot be allowed to have a free movement. The state should know where I'm going to protect what I carry. That is the position. And so, specifically, we don't have a particular law that says this is what should happen, apart from that case which made a decision in the Kaunda matter. Mm-hmm. But surely, maybe in future, we should have a law.
Okay. Now, if the court rules in favor of the state, what practical steps would follow in ensuring the body is brought back? And if it rules otherwise, what would be the state's position?
Let's start with, if the court rules otherwise, when I make the application to repatriate the remains of former President Edgar Chagwa, if the court rules otherwise, as the state is concerned, would have done our part. We have gone to the last. This is our last bus stop. We can't go further. We are just trying to help the situation. That President Lungu doesn't just belong to the immediate family members. He belongs to the whole nation. There are people who are from Chawama, they want to attend the burial. There are people from Kazungula, they want to attend the burial. The Zambians just need, they want to attend the burial. And if the court agrees with our application to repatriate the remains of the president, former President Lungu, the cabinet office will run the protocols as what will be done.
Okay. Now, you know, should this happen, is the state willing to proceed with, you know, maybe appointing a neutral body like the church to mediate between
the church have been involved. The church have been involved. Even other stakeholders, those who thought they were close to the Lungu family, they have been involved. They have been negotiating. And speaking for myself, this period which we have been given, even before that, I believe in parties agreeing and having consent. But now, apart from looking at what happened in the past, that parties agreed, and there was some sentiments that the government side had breached, according to the Lungu family, that the government side had breached. But if we go to court, before even 3rd July, if the parties are able to agree, I will sign. It will be a consent judgment, which we are going to file in court, and no party will be allowed to somersault on that court order, because it will become a court order. Okay. And I think that's the best arrangement. And I hope the Zambians are seeing that maybe this will bring finality to what we have been struggling with.
Okay. And finally, as we wrap up the interview, what assurances can you give the Zambian people that this process will remain respectful, that will remain lawful, and in the best interest of national unity?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I want to assure the Zambian public that this process we have gone into, it's a good one, because it will bring parties together. And let us continue, remain united. Let us learn also, if we call ourselves Christians, it shouldn't be by mouth, it should be by what we do. Let us learn to love one another. Let us learn to forgive one another. That is what Jesus Christ guided us to do. So the nation, be assured, the government means well through the Attorney General. I mean well, that let's bring this issue to the conclusion, so that we bury our former president in a decent way. Being buried in another country, I can't assure that to be a decent way. We must bury our president in the country of his origin, and that is Zambia. That's the best arrangement Zambia can have.
And finally, as well, you know, I think the biggest argument has also been that when he left the country, he had been stripped of his benefits. He was basically not what you would recognize as former head of state. He was a normal citizen. So how are you balancing that narrative with bringing him back now as a statesman?
Thank you. Please, Zambians, no one stripped, no individual person or office stripped President Lungu of his benefits. The same act I've cited, former President's Act, Chapter 15, talks of any person. That is the law. The law, it was not made by this current government. The law says any person who has been president, and if that person joins or goes back to politics, he loses those benefits. No one. Have you forgotten that on 28th October, President Lungu went to the memorial of President Sata on 28th October and announced that he had come back to politics. So no one is stripped. It's the law. The law kicks in. It's the law that stripped him of that, because it was his constitutional right to go back to politics. And if you go back to politics, the law says then the benefits for former president, stop. That's a law. No one really stripped him. It's the law.
Okay. So in the interest of time and ensuring that this process is done as quickly as possible, when are we expecting you to file in South Africa? Because you've been given up to the 3rd or the 4th of July?
To the 3rd of July. Yes. I intend to file before 30th. But in the meantime, we'll continue talking to the family. I'm not the one negotiating. Maybe I'll pass it on to Secretary to the Cabinet to find a team to talk. My desire is that even before 30th, maybe even tomorrow, if people can please say, it's too much. We can't keep our former president in a foreign mortuary. Let's see what we can do. What's the best? Speaking for myself, the best for this nation is by tomorrow the parties agree, or even we, myself and the family, we sit and agree what should happen. Bring the body here, let's bury. If they insist that he has to be buried in South Africa, they must give the reasons. They have been giving reasons, but some of those reasons are political. And also to imagine that I've heard statements like, no, he was stripped, as you have said. No one stripped him. Himself did. Himself did strip himself of those benefits because he declared, I've come back to politics. And the law kicks in. So maybe this information has not been given to the family. Maybe even in them they think so. But look, the Secretary to the Cabinet wrote a letter to the former president. So, now we have come back in politics. Declared by yourself on 28th. So the benefits, they fall off. And we are in court, in case Zambians don't know. We are in court. Somebody, the former president went to court, in the High Court, challenging that law about former presidents losing their benefits because they have gone to politics. It offends the Constitution on the rights. Rights to do whatever you want, rights of association, rights of whatever you want to do. We are in court. The matter is in court. I was sued. Okay. So, but the law is still there. The law has not been declared by the court that it's unconstitutional.
Okay.
So we are just following the laws.
All right.
We are government of laws.
All right.
That's all.
That's all.
Which laws we didn't enact. Enacted by previous governments.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming through for this interview today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sinyangwe. The nation, we are still mourning. The mourning can only end when we have put to rest the remains of our former president. And we continue saying condolences to the Lungu family and to the whole nation.
All right. This has been a special interview on ZMBC television. And of course, we were featuring the Attorney General, Mulilo Kabesha, State Counsel. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Leslie Sinyangwe. Have a good day.
Get ready for a ride of your life with TV2, the channel that's rewriting the rules of television. From the heart-stopping dramas that will leave you on the edge of your seat, to laugh-out-loud comedies that will leave your sides splitting. Let's go! TV2 is the gold standard of entertainment. And for sports fanatics, rejoice! TV2 brings you front row seats to the action-packed showdowns and nail-biting competitions that will leave you shouting for more.
Now, check this out.
But that's not all. Prepare to be enlightened with TV2's riveting documentaries, informative and educative programs where every story is a journey and every moment is an adventure. Join the revolution and experience the future of television with TV2, because when it comes to entertainment, we just don't raise the bar. We are the bar. TV2, the pulse of television.
the grief and pain of the family and relatives and the Zambian nation caused or as a result of the retired President Lunga of Zambia, who passed on the 5th of June 2025. Deceased, especially as our culture as Africans, should be laid to his final resting place in a respectable manner. I also just want to thank the legal representatives for meaningfully having a discussion about this serious matter and reaching an agreement as to how the legal process would go forward should the parties not reach an agreement. And I think as the public has got an interest in this matter, I'll read the order that I make in respect of this matter. By agreement between the parties, an order is made in the following terms. The first to 7 respondents undertake not to proceed with the funeral and or burial of the late President pending the finalization of the application in prayer 5. Infra. 2. If any party wishes to intervene in this application, they are to file their notice of motion and founding affidavit and or any answering affidavit on or before the 18th of July 2025. If any party wishes to be joined in this application as an amicus curiae, such party is to file its notice of motion and founding affidavit on or before the 18th of July 2025. The notice to oppose is to be filed by the respondents on or the notice of motion is to be filed by the respondents or any party who's got an interest in this matter on or before the 30th of June 2025. The applicant is ordered to file its amended notice of motion and supplementary affidavit seeking the repatriation of the body of the late President of Zambia on or before the 4th of July 2025. The respondents are ordered to file their opposing affidavits on or before the 11th of July 2025. 7. The applicant is ordered to file its replying affidavit and heads of arguments, chronology and list of authorities on or before the 18th of July 2025. Respondents are to file their heads of arguments, chronology and list of authorities on or before the 24th of July 2024. Parties are to file their joint practice note and joint chronology on or before the 25th of July 2025. This matter would be heard as a special motion on the 4th of August 2025. All parties agree to electronic service on their appointed attorney of record. The costs of the urgent application are reserved to be determined when the main application is heard. Only the first to 7th respondent are permitted to visit and or inspect and or allow further individuals to visit and or inspect the body of the late president. That is the order of the court.
My pleasure, my lord.
you.